What's up, guys? So today we're covering the fight between Gary Russell Jr. and Mark Magsayo. So Gary Russell came into the fight as a WBC featherweight champ. The fight took place on PBC. Gary Russell had a record of 31-1 with 18 KOs. He was 33 years old. Mark Magsayo had a record of 23-0 with 16 KOs. He was 26 years old. Now keep in mind, the only loss that Gary Russell took was against the great Vasily Lomachenko, and this happened, I think it was in 2014 or 2013. So this happened a while back. Now, Gary Russell didn't fight for 2 years leading up to this fight, but he's used to that. Since 2015, he's only been fighting one time a year. So his last fight was actually in February of 2020, so 23 months ago. Mark Magsayo, on the other hand, was keeping busy for the past couple years. He fought 3 times, I believe, in the past 2 years. Now, in the ring, Mark looked way bigger than Gary Russell. I thought he was just going to bully him for the whole fight. Honestly, I never saw Mark Magsayo fight in the past. This is the first time I see him. Being a fan of the sport of boxing, I've seen Gary fight multiple times, and I know his style. I know that he's a stick and move guy, very amateur style. He just tries to score his points. He sets up the left hand, but with his jab. So he's a 1-2 fighter. He he's a 1-2 fighter. So he really likes to work off his jab to land his straight left. However, on round 4, Mark Magsayo threw a right cross or a right hook, which injured Gary Russell. So something happened to his right shoulder, and he stopped throwing his jab. Being a lefty, that's very crucial for him to have that tool, that right jab. Given that he couldn't throw it, he only resorted to throwing that straight left. Now, he would sometimes catch Mark Magsayo coming in with a straight left counter. Sometimes he would double it up, triple it up, quadruple it up, mix it to the head, mix it to the body. He was working off angles and whatnot, but Mark was just too big, too powerful. He was just cutting the ring and pressuring Gary Russell all night long using his big frame. Now, from round 1, Mark Magsayo was landing that right uppercut to the body. He was throwing that as a counter. So every time Gary Russell would throw that straight left, Mark Magsayo would counter with a right uppercut to the body. Now, that was his key to victory. Given that Mark Magsayo's conditioning is not as good as Gary Russell, that's what the commentators said. They said that he only started doing road work when he started working with Freddie Roach, which was, I'm assuming, recently. Now, Gary Russell is always in shape, although he only fights once a year. He's always in the gym, always putting in work. He also did mention after the fight that he had a torn ligament in his right shoulder that he got 2 weeks ago. So in training camp, so he came into the fight injured, but he decided not to step down. He said that he wanted to fight. It's been 2 years he hasn't fought, and he's a true champ. We have to congratulate him for that. We have to give him credit. He was fighting off one arm for the whole fight. So that's what a true champion does. Now, for the scorecards, Mark Magsayo won by majority decision. So one judge had it 114-114, a draw, and the 2 others had it 115-113. Personally, I think that the fight was pretty close, but I think that those scorecards were way too close. In my opinion, I would have seen it as a 116-112 or a 117-111, given that Mark Magsayo was putting pressure, landing the cleaner shots. He actually landed more than double the amount of shots that Gary Russell landed. He landed Mark Magsayo landed about 150 shots, and Gary Russell didn't even land 100 shots. I think he landed 69 shots according to the punch stats. Now Mark Magsayo is the WBC featherweight champ. I'm not sure who he's gonna fight next. He was the mandatory for Gary Russell Jr., so he had to take the fight. Gary Russell had no choice but to take the fight. He couldn't step back given that Mark Magsayo is his mandatory. So where does Mark go from here? Where does Russell go from here? There aren't any top guys to fight at 126 in PBC. Navarrete is actually with top rank, so they have their own thing going on over there. Given that the roster on PBC isn't too stacked for the 126 division, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gary Russell and Mark Magsayo go at it again for a second time. So that was about it for the fight. Typical lefty versus righty fight. Both fighters trying to land the backhand. Gary Russell Jr. got injured in round 4. He should be bouncing back maybe a year from now. Who knows? Well, that's it for me, guys. I hope that you guys subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you guys think about the fight. Peace out.